You see me get excited about small game hunting opportunities up here, and that's because small game hunting has been the most helpful and important thing for me when it comes to the moments of truth on a big game animal. It can be overwhelming, it can be exciting, it can be scary, it can be all kinds of things, putting your broadhead or your bow pointed at a living thing, especially that big, and deciding to kill it. And from what I've learned, if you're trying to make that decision while you're trying to make the shot's not going to go very well. You need to be thinking about your executing a good archery shot, not the ethics or whether or not you're going to hit it or so on and so forth. So small game hunting has been transformative for me. I didn't grow up hunting, and so I didn't have a lot of time, what they call maybe trigger time or fur time, which means just aiming at an animal. And aiming at an animal and aiming at a 3D target is very different, an animal of any size. I've killed piles and piles of fish, and now piles and piles of small game animals, but before then it was just fish. And I found that I actually had an aversion to shooting deer because it was so outside of my norm, not my comfort zone, just my norm. I didn't grow up doing it, and men in particular are told to push their aggression and violent tendencies down, maybe even if they're channeled in a seemingly healthy and legal way. And so I just hadn't had a lot of time aiming at animals, and so there's many things that small game hunting teaches you. It teaches you to watch for motion. That's the first thing that comes to mind. A lot of beginning hunters are looking for a deer. They're looking for an elk. They're looking for their target that's on their tag. And that's not what you're looking for out here. You're looking for something that's not forest. You're looking for something that's not woods. And then you take that down a level of specificity and say, is this a mule deer? Is this a legal mule deer? Is this a legal mule deer I want to go chase? Is it in a place I can go chase? But first things first, you're just trying to find an animal. And so tuning yourself to just catch any kind of motion that's not just the slow wave of the tree, the motion that only comes from a living being running around. Turning your mind onto small game hunting like that will tune your other senses for big game hunting for just seeing the slightest motion. You have to consider that relative to your eye, a chipmunk moving 30 yards away and the bum of an elk a few hundred yards away in the forest might be just about, a few millimeters in your eyesight. So if you're able to spot movement that's not natural or not deciduous or coniferous, that can give you a huge advantage in finding animals. Another one is knowing when you're going to have a shot opportunity. So just knowing the different steps of the shot, knowing that there's an animal that's kind of watching out for you depending on the range you're at, knowing when to draw the bow, and knowing that sometimes you have to shoot when the animal's looking right at you, if they're still enough, kind of watching their patterns. It's not ideal, but just learning when can I shoot, when can I not shoot, things like that. That can be very helpful for big or small game hunting, to keep your mind in the game, to turn on the kill switch at any time. That doesn't mean you need to become angry. In fact, I highly recommend that you keep emotion divorced from the entire procedure. But it can keep you ready of, oh, there's a shot, time to turn on my archery stuff, because you can kind of just get turned off walking around out here. The Rockies are beautiful, but they're not as jam-packed with wildlife as, say, the Amazon. There can be a little bit of time between sighting living creatures. So just keeping that killer hunter instinct on can be super helpful. Of course, executing a shot on a small target, that's going to give you good confidence in your ability to be accurate on a shot. If you can hit a chipmunk on a log at 20-30 yards. The other really important thing that I'll say small game hunting helps with, but I've also just learned over the years shooting at animals of all types is that you're not killing an animal, you're not shooting an animal. I had to kind of change my thinking from that. What I came out with is what I do is I'm running my shot for the animal. I'm performing my shot for the animal. Every single shot I run and that you run with a bow should be the exact same. Should. We give ourselves a little bit of wiggle room there. We're humans, we're not robots, but it should be the exact same. Whether or not you're shooting paper at your league night with your buddies, whether or not you're on the field course shooting 3D, whether or not you're shooting your lifetime 8x8 elk or a 38-point mule or whitetail, whatever. You're not shooting that animal. You are running that animal has showed up, and you now have an opportunity to run a shot with that as the aim or target portion of your shot. What would happen to me is I would get so excited, I'd just go, you know what, I'm pretty good. I'll just draw that bow back and it'll work out. And I've come to a point with archery where I need to build my shot through each sequence of each part of the shot sequence. So I'll just run through how it might occur here as, yay, there's a big old elk over there. He's 20 yards, kind of sauntering slow. She might even be a little bit aware of me, or he, whatever. But again, we're just running a shot. We're not shooting that elk. That happens to be the target. And what's most important to remember is not to rush it. Take your normal shot timing. And if you have a good shot that you like, when you're in the aiming and release portion of your shot, that's great. But until you get there, it's not really an opportunity for a shot. So for me, it takes a good 2-3 seconds to build the shot. Let's get these mosquitoes off. About time to reapply, it would seem. Go stance, hook, grip, set. Raise your bow, draw to load. Ouch. Draw to load. And only now am I really thinking about shooting the animal. Only here can I put the aim on the target and then make the conscious, deliberate effort to follow through on my release. And that made all the difference for me. Just kind of thinking about it like I was performing my shot for the animal, and that if it was there at that point in the whole dance of an archery shot, then fantastic. And since then, my success rate of shots, of connecting with what I want them to out here has gone up quite a bit. So again, I highly recommend small game hunting. Anything that's legal, definitely call your local warden or what have you, ranger's office, and just make sure that you're not out here breaking rules. But small game hunting, it's invaluable. Some people balk at it, but so many times I've seen folks miss their first big old deer, and it's because their first big old deer was their first big old shot on anything. That was actually the case for me. My first opportunity at an elk, I hadn't practiced at all. I hadn't practiced knocking an arrow while kind of looking at my target, you know. It's not bad. So I hadn't done any of that, and so when this bull, this nice 6x6, came at 30 yards and just yelled at me, I didn't have much for him. So small game hunting, I can't recommend it enough. Of course, shooting your local range, I can't recommend 3D shooting enough so that you get used to shooting at a particular point on an animal-shaped object instead of a block. So small game hunting. Do it, enjoy it. Don't think about it as glorious or not glorious. Think about it as a really valuable part of the process.